Okay, boys and girls and non-binary people.
Hello, boys and girls. Or whatever.
This might be the last video in a while, because my life is literally falling apart, and I don't have time to do these videos anymore. I really need to find a way to get some money, and unfortunately that takes as much time or even more than making these videos. So but it's alright. 2003 was the most important year anyway, so it's a good stopping point. It's not that I plan never to do the top anymore, but it will be a long hiatus, if you will. But then again, I have ADHD, maybe I'll get another hyperfixation on this shit and I'll crank out more, even though I don't have money for food. I definitely could do that. Okay, so to make this stop, I've watched 8 new movies and rewatched 6. None of the movies I watched, one movie I watched found its way to the top, and a couple of movies I rewatched disappeared from the top. So it will be shorter than the fucking shit 2002 top, but nevertheless it has more movies rated higher than 8 out of 10 than 2002 had. So like 2002 had quantity, 2003 has quality. Starting from the bottom, number 10, Daredevil. So Daredevil is a comic book movie, and unlike other comic book movies, it actually is fine. You know, most of superhero movies are very childish, and not a lot happens except for fighting and explosions and all of that stuff. But Daredevil is actually a drama. It's actually a drama, and it's a very nicely made drama. So number 10, Final Destination 2. Okay, Final Destination is my favorite franchise. It's the only franchise that I like almost every movie of. Except the first one. The first one was shit. The first Final Destination is super boring. I don't know why people think that sequels are usually bad, even though, like, most of the time it's not the case. Like, I will eventually make a video with franchises that have sequels better than the originals, and there are a lot of them. There are fewer franchises where the original is actually better than the sequels. Seriously. I don't know where this stereotype came from, but the most renowned franchises have sequels better than the originals. So, like, what the deal, man? So, Final Destination 2 is the first movie in a long line of sequels, and it's where it starts to be good, because like the Final Destination was like the idea of Final Destination. That's the problem with the originals. Originals give the idea, like whether the audience like it or not, and when the audience likes the idea, then you actually start making good movies based on this idea, because you already know that this idea is good. So the original is like a prototype. That's why sequels are usually better than the originals. And Final Destination 2 is definitely better than Final Destination 1. I wouldn't compare it with other installations, but yeah. Many people think that since I'm a determinist, that means I believe in fate. And Final Destination is very curious in the sense that it both shows fatalism and determinism. So fatalism is the belief in fate. Like, fate is like a very limited version of determinism. Like, fate is like, this event is destined to happen. One event. Maybe two. Like, all other events are not destined, they just happen. But this particular event is destined to happen. It will happen no matter what. And obviously, people who made Final Destination believe in fate and believe in free will, both of which are false ideas. But unexpectedly, unbeknownst to them, they actually made a case for determinism. So the idea of Final Destination, or all of the Final Destinations, like all of, I don't know, 10 movies they had maybe, it's the same. Some catastrophe is going to happen, but before it happens, someone has a vision of this catastrophe. So they save a bunch of people, and then fate comes to play and kills all of them. Well, almost all of them. Well, it depends on the movie. Usually at least once, twice. So this is fate. Like, the scary monster in this movie, well, this is a horror movie, yeah? And the scary monster in this movie is fate. And it kills all of them. Because they were destined to die, basically. But if you take a step back and think, and just think, like, why is this so hard for people to think? Just, it's not that hard, just do it. Just think, use your brain, for fuck's sakes. If you take a step back from this whole situation and think, they wouldn't have done anything if they didn't have a premonition. They would have died. In this plane and other situations, they would have died. But they didn't. They didn't die in that event. So it may have been predestined. But it didn't happen. It didn't happen. The event that was fate, it didn't happen because they got a premonition, so they died in a different time, in a different place, and nothing that was destined to happen happened. So there is no fate. The premonition they get are predetermined. And all the events that follow after that premonitions are also predetermined. So these movies prove determinism, not the existence of fate or free will. It's backwards. It's backwards than what people think. It was predetermined that they get a premonition and they get off the plane, then some mysterious force is going to kill them. All of this was predetermined. It's not fate. It's determinism. Okay. Moving on. Number 9, The Dreamers. It's a very artsy movie, as they say. I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a dude starts living with a twin brother and sister, and they all have sex. So that's the story. Well, there are some other themes, but like the main idea of this movie is whether incest is okay. So if you're interested to know the answer, you can watch this movie. Number 8, Big Fish. It's a very cool magic realism type of, well, it's not actually magic realism, but it's kind of magic realism. Well, it's basically a fairy tale. It's a fairy tale set in kind of real life. It's good. It's good. It's good for children. It's good for teenagers, and it's good for adults. Like, it's a very easy movie. Like, you don't have to think about anything. You just marvel at what CGI has to show you. It looks good. The acting is good, and all of that. And the story is good. It's okay. There are no deeper meaning, but it's a fun family movie. That's all. Number 7, Dogville. Oh my god, like, this is the only Lars von Trier movie I liked so far. I haven't watched Melancholia, I haven't watched Nymphomaniac, but the ending. Seriously, the ending is what makes this movie. Because if the ending was different, I'm glad Lars had the balls to make it with this ending. Because this ending is like, it makes this movie. Seriously. Some people say it's like a pretentious movie that like, because they have no walls, that means that this movie has no idea on only like appearance of a good movie. But it actually has both the appearance, both the idea, both the story, both the takeaway, and so on. Like, the idea of this movie is that people are basically evil, intrinsically evil. The only thing that keeps this evil from coming from them is some kind of law, structure, like all of that. Like, if you allow a human to do whatever the hell it wants, it will do horrendous shit. Because they know there will be no repercussions. The only source of morality is the society. If you don't live in a society, you don't have any moral code. Maybe killing. Like, you wouldn't kill someone from your own species. But you will definitely kill other species. That's basically it. That's the only moral code you have if you don't live in society. Because all of the laws, all of the rules, all of that comes from the society. And it depends solely on the society. Every society has different rules, different norms, different laws. You don't have anything. And like, if you don't believe me, watch this movie. Moving on, number 6, Freaky Friday. So I was really surprised how good this movie turned out. It's a Disney movie from the era when Disney tried to do teenage movies, and most of them are worse than crap. But this one somehow, magically, I don't know how it happened. I don't know how they managed to do it. But it's good. Again, it's a fun family movie. It fits both for teenagers and adults. Basically, it teaches you to appreciate your family. Basically. Appreciate your children, appreciate your parents, rainbow and marshmallows. It's good. It's a movie that makes you feel good. Number 5, The Room. I rewatched this movie specifically for this top because I needed to know how to rate it. And it was tough. Like, this movie is an accidental masterpiece. So there is a concept known as the death of the author. Like, the piece of art that is produced should be basically regarded as something separate from the author. Because whatever the author wanted to say by making this piece of art, it's irrelevant because the result doesn't have anything to do with what he wanted to say. Like, it's a separate thing. And here, you have to look at this movie from a specific angle to understand its genius. Tommy Wiseau made a movie about his own relationship. And that's how he sees things. So we are not looking at this movie as the events actually happened. We are watching it from the prism of Tommy Wiseau's perception. That's how he sees things, that's how he remembers things, that's how he interprets things. That's why it's so goofy. I don't know. The events that happen in this movie are very unnatural. Like, every scene in this movie is bizarre. But if you understand why they're bizarre, then you can appreciate this movie. I'm not saying Tommy Wiseau is a great director, no. Definitely no. But he accidentally made art, basically. This movie is art. You can't enjoy it as a regular movie, because it's definitely not a regular movie. There wouldn't be so big of a controversy if it was just a bad movie. The actual bad movies you will never hear about. Like, IMDb have this thing now where top 100 worst movies. And if a movie is in this list, it's not the worst movie. The actual worst movies are higher. Like, bad movies all have like rating like 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10. Any movie that has 3 out of 10 or lower, it's not actually a bad movie. It's not because it's a bad movie. There are other reasons why this movie has such rating. Bad movies actually have 4 out of 10 and 5 out of 10. These are actually the worst movies ever. 4 out of 10 and 5 out of 10 on IMDb. Like, look for them. Find them. Here you are. If you want to actually see the worst movie. The worst sin a movie can commit is being mediocre. It's a movie that you watch and forget the next day. If a movie made you feel something, made you remember something, it's not bad. You may not like it, but it made you feel something. Made you think something. If a movie didn't make you think or feel, it's garbage. And The Room makes you feel so many emotions. So many. You wouldn't get these emotions from any other movie. Because of how bizarre it is. Yeah. Number 4. Pirates of the Caribbean. The Curse of the Black Pearl. I didn't want it to get 9 out of 10. Because obviously I've watched it before. And, well, according to my rating, when I watched it, it got 9 out of 10. And now, when I was preparing to make this top, I didn't want to believe it. Because Pirates of the Caribbean is a kids movie, basically. A kids movie for family watching. But it is 9 out of 10. It is 9 out of 10, I'm sorry. Like, usually 9 out of 10 is given to some movies with deep meaning, great ideas, superb acting, and so on. Like, it has to be something extraordinary. And Pirates of the Caribbean is extraordinary not because some part of it is extraordinary. It's extraordinary because it is made so good. The acting is so good. The pacing is so good. The story is so good. And so on. Like, every part of this movie is good. Usually some parts of the movie are worse than others. But here I can't see any flaw in this movie. Any flaw. Like, for what it is, yes, it's a family movie for children. Like, you grab your children and you go and watch this movie. There are no ideas, no takeaways, just like, it's fun. It's a fun movie about pirates. That's all. But it's a 9. It's a 9 because how good it was made. That's all. There is nothing more to say about it. Okay, number 3, Memories of Murder. This is the only movie that got into the top from 8 new movies I watched. It's a Korean movie, and I hate Korean movies. Like, what was the name? Spring, Summer, Autumn, Winter, and Spring Again was filmed the same year. Literally, like, both of these movies are made in 2003. And one of them has a 9 out of 10 and the other one has 3 out of 10. I hate Korean movies. I hate them. Keep that in mind when I say that this Korean movie is 9 out of 10. It's great because it encapsulates Korean society perfectly. Like the Korean culture, contemporary culture, I mean. The society, all of that. It shows it perfectly. And on top of that, it's a great movie that explores the concept of epistemology, basically. like, how do you know that what you know is actually true? Like, it's a deep philosophical question. Like, how do you know that what you know is true? I don't have anything to add. If you like detective stories, if you like thriller type of mystery, this is the movie. Okay, now we are moving to the actual stars of this top. Number 2, Tokyo Godfathers. So this is the best anime movie ever made. The best. It's not a Ghibli movie, surprisingly. It's not Spirited Away. It's not Your Name. It's Tokyo Godfathers. And I bet you've never heard about it. But it is actually the best anime movie ever made. The best. 10 out of 10. I won't elaborate because it's so great. Just there are. Let me check. I'll tell you how rare 10 out of 10 from me is. There are 30 movies. 30 movies that have the rating 10 out of 10. 30. 30.